that's in your root directory as like the master layout for every other page you make, unless you tell it, no, this page has a page file and a layout file, and then it'll use the layout, maybe it's a different layout for that particular page. Otherwise, you're just creating a directory, a page file in it, writing your HTML and everything in that page file, and then it'll, when you hit that route, it'll grab that page content and plop it into that layout, so you have all your pages set up like that. So right now, like let me just start this up. I think it's start dev. That's not the right command. Let me look at the package. And our startup command is dev. Okay. So it should be npm run dev. Oh, you know what? Oh, I'm not in the right directory. Okay. npm start dev. So it's going to start the next server, and it's going to be on port 3000. Invalid project directory. Oh, it's run dev. That should do it. Come on. Yeah, okay. So now it's running on localhost 3000. So I can go in Chrome here and open up that. I already have a shortcut. Localhost 3000. And this is the boilerplate code that's in here. So all this content right here, this is in this page file right here. That has all of that content for the page. And it's using this layout. You notice it says root layout, and it's got this children right here, this children prop. Children means it tells Next.js, okay, where's the page file that's in this directory? Take that and plop it in right here where it says children. Now, like, because I might have had, you could theoretically have you could have like your nav component here and your footer component there, and every page you bring up is going to have that same nav bar and same footer, because that's your root layout. But right now it's just all the code right now is just in this page file that's got all that. But I'm going to just get rid of all that. I'm going to take everything between the main tags. Main goes to here. So now, whoops, let me get rid of all this styling too. So now I can just say like this is the main page. So now if I go back, that's all we got. That's all the content it has. And it's doing this weird stuff because some of the CSS is for all that content. Let me just go into CSS, and I'm just gonna get rid of all this, and it should just, because that's the regular page. There's the main page. So now, what the point of this is to have a way for a user to log in using their credentials, like email and a password, or using Google OAuth, signing with your Google account. So at this point, this is new to me kind of, so I'm just following the directions as far as how that's set up. One thing I can point out though is that in this app directory, when you're using like an API connection or something else, this is another Next.js thing. You put those things in this API directory. Say if I had code where I was accessing a backend or some other remote source fetching something, I'd put all that information inside the API directory. So right now, what's in there is this one route. Oh, and another thing, how this will look, because it's in the API directory, it'll look like whatever your domain is, /API/auth. That's how the directories are set up. it translates your directories into a path. And then inside that auth, I have there's this directory, this next auth, and I'm not totally sure how that works if it's following the directions, but that's another part of the path. But inside of there is this route TS, so that when you go to that route, that path, you're going to be hitting this bit of code right here. And that's what's going to handle the authorization process. And to do that process, it's using this package called NextAuth, which I've installed already with npm install. If you look at our package that lists everything that's been installed, that's... Did I install it? One of them should say NextAuth. Okay, it looks like, maybe it's not installed. That's good. So I can install it for me. I'm trying to quit this terminal. Okay, so I'm inside the directory, and I'm going to install this NextAuth package. npm install NextAuth. And NextAuth is a package that has all the code for doing all this Google OAuth or credential authorization. This makes it easier. So I'm going to install NextAuth. And now you see it appears. It's right here in our package directory. So now I'm going to go back to this route file. And auth config. Oh wait. So this NextAuth, this is what I'm importing from that package I just installed. I'm importing this NextAuth module from there to use in our route. And now this is the important part, is this NextAuth has this method on it that you pass in set up a configuration. And I could, you know what, let me just do it in here so it's easier. I actually made it in another file and I imported it, but I'm going to do it all within here so it's just easier to see what's going on. So let me just go inside my file. I had stored it in this library file. So I know these are the things we need to do this. Comment this out so we don't really need it. So it's going to need these parts from the NextAuth package, both of these are from the NextAuth package. Let me do this split screen. Okay. So what I'm doing basically is I'm taking this information on the right, and I'm just putting it in this file because I was importing right here.
So your daughter would have a good time.
I was importing this
your daughter would have a good
config.
I don't know if she would.
That I created here into here, but I'm just going to put all this into here instead of importing it.
Yeah.
So I'm basically duplicating all this here.
You can't copy and paste it.
Yeah. I will. I just want to make sure. So I'm not really. Okay. So this auth config here, that's in our file. I'm gonna to make it clean, I'm just gonna put it into its own little variable here called auth config, and that's where we'll do all the setup for this. Oh yeah. Good one. So we'll call it that, so that's what we'll pass in here. And it's going to be an object. And this I'm going to just copy from inside the other file. And I'll explain what it's all doing. Okay, so the configuration for this providers is that's where your providers would be like your Google OAuth or your maybe using you ever see like the GitHub login?
Yeah.
So that's what they call Nextsoft calls your providers. So the first one is going to be credentials, which is just your password or login. So it's an array of your providers. So the first one is this. This is one whole provider right here. This credentials provider, and that's part of this Nextauth package. It's got a lot of automatic stuff built into it, and so the first thing it needs to know is the name. Because what it does is this credentials provider, it makes like a default login screen that you'll have like your email, password, and the login button. You can make your own custom sign-in screen, but this credentials provider, it makes it for you automatically. You just got to pass in these parameters. So name is like the title that's going to be on top of the form. It's basically a form that's built in. And then next thing wants to know is the credentials that you want the user to pass in. So in this case, we want to have a username, and just like in a form, it's got a label that'll sit above the field. It'll be username, and the type of data that you're having in that field is just going to be text. It could be email, which it probably normally would be.
Right.
And if you wanted it to be email, you would just maybe change the label to email and change your type to email. So I think there's some automatic validation built into this, where if you put the type as email, it'll check for is it a valid formatted email address. And the placeholder is just what sits in the field when the user's looking at it, the default kind of like grayed out text. And the next attribute we have in our credentials is the password, and it's got a label password, and again it's got a type of password. And I know at least at a minimum that'll give you the dots. It'll like mask the password automatically because it sees the type as password. And the zip code is just something I was testing. That's not something you probably really have in there. So let's say right now our credentials is going to be just a username and a password. But yeah, why not even make it what it probably really would be? Let's say it's going to be email. And the label, call it email. The type will be email. And the placeholder would be something like you@example.com. Okay? So now we have an email and a password.
Right.
Those are our two credentials that we want. You can have as many as you want, right? Now this next part that this
databases you guys use?
I'm just learning the
MongoDBs, okay.
DB. That's what I'm just getting in the back part.
Not bad, because at the end of the day, the companies are going to come by pricing.
And they're going to do what they do.
Exactly.
And
they're going to be cheap.
I have to learn whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
And then, so the next part of this credentials provider you have to add in is this authorized method, which is part of the credentials provider. It's like an automatically built-in thing. And what you pass in are those credentials. So when the user puts in their information and hits, log in, those credentials they put in, the email and password, they're going to get passed in this. And the request, I haven't really used that yet, but I'm not totally sure what's in there. Because everything you want out of the user is going to be in this credentials here. And so after you receive those credentials, I'm just deconstructing the username and the password. You see this is red. This is like giving me an error right
That's
here.
what I was going to ask.
That's
Do you have
because
to put that in quotations?
no.
Or is that because you got the brackets?
No, well, what it does is it looks at this authorized. It looks at what you entered up here, and it said I have the email and the password. And if I hover,
a user as email.
well,
Username.
Yes. Well, see, if you look at hover over credentials, it's telling me for credentials. It's expecting email or password, and I've got username and password now. So, like for instance, if I add that if I add this zip code deal here, like I had before, now if I hover over credentials, now it's expecting email, that other credential I made, zip code, and password. So it just looks at whatever you put in for your credentials that you want, and it's expecting them inside this credentials object right here.
Basically, when I'm
So what I have to do is get rid of this. Let me get rid of this again. And here, I have to change this to email because that's what I have. That's what I have up here in my credentials. This ID. Let's not worry about that right now. So what I'm getting from my credentials is it has an email property, and this is saying, if it's not null, grab the email and assign it to this name property of my user object. And then it's saying, okay, and for the password, let me take the zip code out of here. And then it's saying for this password property of my user object, grab the credentials password that the user put in. So then I have this user object that should have the email and password that the user entered. Now I'm trying to figure out why is this giving me an error now. Credentials. I'm not sure. It's got email and password. It's something about this.
Because you realize, like, it's a game. You have to follow the rules. Like, I always thought people were going to try to trick me. Yeah. Actually, when you're writing an interview question for a council, the last thing you want to do is trick.
That's a good question. I'm not sure why it's throwing this error now.
You want to give them
The types are different. So it's saying the first credentials it thinks is a record of email, password,
I thought that was a stupid question. But
or undefined.
so they're prepared for
It's
it.
not assignable to.
So there's this thing called the STAR method, which is
Yeah, I don't know if promise and awaitable are like inheritable, but I mean they seem like very similar types, and I think the way you've defined credentials is maybe not what Authorize is expecting, and it's maybe missing a key. I think if you hover over Authorize, it's going to tell you what the keys are it's expecting. So it's saying it's expecting an email, which you have, or a password. Sorry, a record of email or password, undefined, a request that includes a body, query header, so basically like a URL, a fetch request. Okay, it's expecting some kind of fetch request to. Oh, that's what rec is. Okay.
The name. Name's still there. Which line? Oh. Yes. Seems like it. Shit.
Well, it's still red on Authorize. Yeah.
Oh no, this can be anything actually, because we're creating that property. It's look. Here's where it's looking for email. Here, and email is one of our credential properties.
Is there a special type for credentials that we can use?
I know, like before, maybe. Let's see if I call it what they want. Record. see, what is it saying?
Talking to a recruiter. They don't know anything. Okay. And then I applied for the same engineering job at UWM, a mortgage company.
Record email or password.
That was the first interview I did.
Email,
And
password.
That was what I wanted to tell you that story. He told me the experience.
Email, password.
So he just sat there and he was just like, yep, and what else?
See if I just make this a typewriter. Record. Email
Probably just because I asked you like,
or password.
Never was hard. I was in class. I asked the professor.
String.
How did you deal with that? I'm just like, well, I try to do this. I try to humanize it. So that's what I do. It's like sometimes if it's too hard, I just take my life on that ball and I try to wait for the laugh and the dry laugh. I kind of feel the room like a situation task matching result. Yeah. Through the laptop. All right, through the laptop. What was the result of that? All right. Nothing gets done, but I'll literally just tell them.
Let's see. Now the one that's not this one's not throwing an error. This is the original one.
Same thing with these interviews. It's just like, man, sometimes I don't know how it feels like
Maybe it's because I took this ID thing out.
I think this is a known bug.
I don't even know if I'm chewing right.
Like, like this other person is.
Okay, that's exactly what I was doing.
It says make sure you double check that your next off package.json contains version 4.0.0 beta 2. I guess they're saying upgrade to the latest version.
That's from 2 years ago.
Oh yeah, maybe not. Okay.
But that is the same. You know what? It might need I don't know, maybe it needs this ID. I took this ID. Oh, okay.
What? That makes no sense to me.
Fine. I'll take it. I guess. Let's say, okay, why does it need that ID there?
I don't even know why that would fix it, but
I don't either.
it was a signature of authorized function. Anyway, computers.
Okay, well, that user is getting passed in right here. Oh, okay. Well,
They have an MBA, they wear suits, they get paid more than us for some reason, but they're I don't really understand why.
I think this is part of like the baked-in magic of the next off. I think this user thing here might be something that has a type built in, like it wants, and it needs this ID to be able to like use this user property somehow. That's my only theory. Because I do know, like, all you have to do is return null, and it automatically like error handles and sends the user an error message if there's no user. So that's telling me this user must be something baked into the next auth package.
Okay.
So this must be necessary.
Is it necessary to be one or?
Yeah, that I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, because you're only going to have one user. Like only one user is going to be logged in at a time. You know what I mean? So the ID is going to be unique to whoever's logging in at that time. So I don't know why you would need any multiple IDs because you only have one login. You know what I mean? Like I don't know what this ID is doing.
I mean, my theory is that you return a user on line 33, and so the type of the function is checking. Like before, your user didn't have the ID, and maybe that didn't match the type of authorized. Like authorized is expecting a user with an ID, and so when you added an ID, the return type matches now, so it's expecting this or null. Anyway, that's my theory. I don't know.
And it might have something to do with this web token, this JSON web token business, because it feels like it's putting that in the JSON web token property somehow.
I didn't think we were using JOTs at all, but
yeah, I guess we'll find out. I don't really know. Okay, so anyways, that's where it should be. Okay, we should be able to now put this onto our homepage and get that default form with login credentials. theoretically.
Can we run it?
Yeah, but I've got to put that into our homepage. Like the route's there now. So if I go back to our page, this is where we're going to have to import. Now here we might have to look at the documentation to see. This part I hadn't done yet.
So this is the sample app, and then also this is the. Tell me what you need. And,
I've got all this part. I got the route done. I got this part.
Okay.
How to test it.
Pretty much ends. So we can look at the sample app. Maybe that would. There's a route.js.
The page.
Great.
For me, I'm proud of myself because I kept my it's not like it's not about what you know.
Does that have a login? Is that supposed to have a? What's in the route JS? Yeah, that's got all the stuff. That's okay. So mine's like that. So where are they using it?
Yeah. There's nothing about login here. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So you're saying like where is it included?
Next time we can.
It's including app.page.js here. Oh no, this is app.page.js. Okay.
Oh shit! Basically, I'm starting a runner right now. I'm downloading it.
Yeah, I don't think it's included in this page anywhere.
Story and so this is it right here. And now I'm starting it, and then you just have to register your runner. I just go through my notes just so I don't miss anything. That's what I'm telling you. I don't really grasp it yet, but what's funny is when you get to actually what blow my mind. Yeah, and I'm like, oh, that was so nice. It's a real firewall.
Yeah. Is there some other tutorial we can follow?
Well, this YouTube one, this will show how to do it.
Okay.
Just find where he's doing it.
Just nice bash.
Yeah, right.
Okay, here's what it's look like. Credentials. Okay, so it's an actual part of the package. It's this credentials form.
Oh, it's a component. Okay. And then.
Okay, but I haven't made that, so.
Okay.
Let me see what he did for the credentials form.
How long do we usually run these meetings for? And do we always meet here? I just want to remember. So
Yeah, so far it's been meeting here. And I mean, until people
I've
get
never been
tired.
here before.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you came. Yeah, it's until people get tired. So.
6 Mile and Mile Road.
Okay.
Yeah, I just moved back.
Where were you?
From where?
I was in Atlanta.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Oh,
I
that's
just
a cool
finished up
town.
the boot camp. I was supposed to get married. Life was going great, and then like boom. So I'm back here, not getting married. And focusing on this, and I think like this was the best thing I ever did because, like I said, your predecessor before, I saw it on Meetup, and I was like, I should do this. But then it's like the anxiety set in, and I was like, nah. I signed up completely. I was like, I'm coming to this meeting. I was the one to clicking on it, comment, and then I just didn't show up. And I don't know why I did that. Like because I feel like I robbed myself of this opportunity because community is everything, and that's how you get better.
Yes. Yeah, that's why I try to involve myself
So do we meet once a week?
Once a month.
Once a month.
It's I mean, I'd like to meet more, but I need help co-organizing. So if you got energy and you want to co-organize like every 2 weeks,
All I gotta do is just send out some emails. What do you
that's all I need.
Because we're not meeting anywhere different every time. That
Yeah.
would be kind of hard. I mean, we could meet at Starbucks. But
I mean, someday we might have a place with a big screen, but here's good enough for now. So
yeah, it is.
yeah, I'll show you. I just add you as a co-organizer in the meetup, and then you can copy and paste. The meetup invite is the same every time.
We're just gonna work on this and have the same topic. We're not gonna change anything.
I mean, it's whatever people feel like. Like, you know, Amari's.
So we could just take a poll.
Yeah. Well, Amari's.
He definitely needs to work on coding.
Yeah.
Well, we have like in between these meetings, a lot of us are still like active in the Discord channel. Where like any given time, like we have the pair programming channels, and we might just hit somebody. We have like a questions channel where you're like, hey, I need help. A code buddy channel, like, hey, I'm looking for somebody to do this with me, and somebody in there like, hey, yeah, I'm free Wednesday. Let's get in the Discord room and let's go over some stuff together. And so we're active in between meetings online. And it's like whenever somebody's available and can help. And
I just want to know personally because I have like 2 part-time jobs right now, so that's why I'm like, I just want to know so I can put that in the schedule. I almost fell asleep on this and it was like 5:20, but I was like, I knew I signed up. I'm going. I'm gonna force myself.
All right.
I was like, it's raining. I should, but I'm like, I'm still gonna go.
there's some other good meetups around that you should check out too.
Here?
Yeah. There's a few, a
send me
couple I go
any
to.
links, I definitely want to get out there and put my face out there.
It's cool.
I was so scared because I was like, I'm going to be talking to people like yourselves who are more comfortable with the language, and I'm like still looking up stuff every like 5 seconds because I don't want to say the wrong thing.
But you're doing something totally different. I
know, but it's like it's still
pipeline stuff and all that, DevOps. I know about it in general, but I'm not trying to really know it, other than deploying my apps. But I think it's just good in general, even if you're not talking about the same thing. Just what I'm saying, like all the stuff we were talking about when we first got here, like that's not domain specific, but it's very also helpful. So.
Yeah, just being around people talking about it, and Amari's leading, which is the hard part. Finding someone who like wants to basically like be a guide, and everyone else is sort of like watching them do it.
Usually, like I said, I'm at home by myself, and it's just like to get motivated. It is hard. Some days it's like if I feel like I'm too dumb. I don't want to be reminded of the challenge, but it's like you gotta eat the toad. You know what I mean?
I'm a firm believer. I mean, research backs us up too. I was a teacher for a long time, right? And the thing that everybody can understand, learning is a social activity. It's a everything about learning with humans is social. You know what I mean? Like, from so many different angles, you learn faster that way. You know what I mean? It's just everything about learning. The more social you can make learning, and emotional, but the more social, the faster you'll learn, the better it'll stick. The more you'll be encouraged to, do it. It's just, it's everything,
Okay.
Yeah. So you let you let your students talk to each other. You don't like say shut up.
I always had the teacher like, could you ask your class is a little noisy? Like, okay, like we'll be quiet. Like my classes are always like, not chaos, but like controlled chaos. Like if you're like what I learned, like if you are a teacher and you're doing 80% of the talking and they're doing 20, I try to flip that. You know what I mean? Like good instruction is like if you're the leader, you're the facilitator. When the good things are happening, they're doing 80% of the talking. So that would mean my class would sound loud because they were all talking. I mean, hopefully it was like on topic and like what they're supposed to learn. But everything about that helps your learning. You're by yourself. You're not talking out loud. You're just by yourself in your own head, and
And that was the thing I was explaining to him because that's when I was running roadblocks, and I would just make an excuse. Like today, like, it's raining. I'm not going to this meeting, or it's.
I actually say that to myself.
And that's the thing. I'm looking for an excuse.
I made of sugar, and I melt when it rains.
The night before, I'm like, I'm doing this. You know what I mean? But it's cool. Like even with my own project right now, I figured out a solution while you guys are working together, and it's like it's crazy. Just by doing this, putting myself in a good headspace, I can start being motivated again and get back out there.
Oh, I think like isolation is the worst, man. Like if like that's I could just feel like.
So we're here. I got the route, exporting the handler and all that.
Yeah, have people around, but like, it's just like that magical thing. It's like, oh yeah,
You can
yeah.
2x it, 2x the speed, or
So
you
you come to the
can
next meeting.
skip ahead too.
Yeah,
If you want, you don't have to.
So here's where
He's got a sign-in page. Yeah.
Might as well, man.
So
Keep it up.
but he also has a credentials form, and he has this Google sign-in button, GitHub sign-in button. Which where does he import these from? Maybe like
right. That's what I'm wondering. What's in his
I moved there.
credentials form and his components? Okay, but he never shows what the hell that is. Like he just.
oh, maybe we shouldn't have skipped ahead, but like
No, I went through. I worked through this from the beginning,
Okay.
and he never. Maybe he did.
I bet these are like pre.
Not yet.
Maybe he explains the flow or gap.
Maybe.
Yeah. Let me look for these components. Like
Is this repository open source or public?
He doesn't have. There's no repo for. This is like an add-on to another project he did. So the repo that goes to this, it doesn't have this sign-in part.
Okay.
So I'm just like, when did he add that credentials? But he started this credentials thing from
They
scratch.
already
So.
redoing
where he-
downtown and the surrounding areas, so stuff like this.
All right. What about a custom login page?
They're trying to make it a tech hub now.
Oh, there it is. Credentials form.
Go to the Bagel Institute.
oh, you got it. Okay. All
Go to
right.
the
So
Bagel Institute.
it's a React component.
I got a list.
It's got props. It's even typed props. That's fancy. Okay.
Yes, I'm on Discord.
What's your username?
Sign in.
He just joined. If you look,
What are you looking for? Are you looking for a
That's
coffee
for
shop
next
or something
off.
for you and your wife?
I just want
Navigations from.
Okay.
Okay.
And then you got, and you want
state.
something for
Okay.
You and your wife. All right.
So that's what it should look like, I guess.
she's not at the age yet where she really like it's 4 months.
good. Okay, then I'll get some. I'll send
So
you
it's a
links
client.
on,
It's a
coffee shop.
it's a
dinner places for you. and your
client
wife.
side
Little activity
component.
place.
So it looks like I need to make
Little
a.
activity places.
components
like,
directory.
have a place where you can paint and drink wine.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying? Activities.
Actually, I went to Cold Art. That was a painter. Visual art.
Inside the app directory.
And what about you? What are you looking for?
I didn't finish college.
App. And it's credentials form. Call it.
I do like basically environmental.
could you post a link to that video when you get a chance?
Yeah,
You did?
Let me do that now.
Okay. July 16th.
Great, thank you.
Midtown Art Fair. Google that in Detroit. Midtown Art Fair, July 16th. I don't know where Detroit is going to be. I sort of Google it to find that.
Oh, you're new, so you're looking for things to do. Like, yeah.
I'm
A
looking
little
for
bit.
a list of things to potentially go to. Most of them I probably won't go to until a little later.
Okay. All right.
But yes, I am.
Okay. Good to know.
You said it was Midtown
Midtown
Art thing, Art Festival.
Art Fair. So you get to look at a bunch of different paintings and stuff, and you also get to paint. And you also get to paint. Bring a bottle of wine.
So she's working 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. or 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Plus or minus like a few hours.
Okay.
So it's hard for me to get out of the house because my kid has to sleep maybe like an hour and a half,
Yeah.
2 hours.
So you're gonna host us at your house next time. Let's all come over there and
Y'all want to be crammed in a space? Then yeah.
we'll all help babysit. You know, all of our uncles. So.
We're all take turns holding your child. Total strangers.
Yeah, ask his wife about that. We'll see how that.
As long as it's during the day, I'm mad at you on that.
That's how you do it.
No, I've literally been to
Beautiful.
the library fireplace here, and they
Eastern Market's really good. Wake up on a Saturday morning if her schedule permits it. You and your wife. I want to say 8 a.m. Get there. Fruit, vegetables, open market, popcorn. When I was a kid, they had horses. Don't quote me on that. I don't know if they do that anymore. It's open market. Like you know, like a bazaar. You walk through. I think it's like say it's like 3 blocks long.
She loves farmers market.
She'll love that. She'll love that. Fresh vegetables. What else was I thinking? They had a movie night in Detroit, but it happened today at 7. So you know.
That's right. Most of the movies we're watching these days.
Legolas.
Oh yeah.
You got a dog or something? You can bring that too.
Our dog is a little special.
Okay.
She can't be walked or leave the house really. She will terrorize anything and everything.
If I find anything else, I'll put it on there and store it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I do have to head out there.
All right. Well, this is fun.
Yeah, man.
Very good.
It's just a breath of fresh air. You can go back to your.
Oh yeah. This will be my social interaction for like a couple of weeks.
Literally, this is mine.
With adults, I mean, you have some. Yeah.
I'll hopefully go to a board game sports tonight.
Okay. Oh yeah. Let me know. I have a board game store you'll love. It's called Opal Grove.
Opal Grove?
Yeah, it's right next to a bookstore, which is called 27th Letter. They're in the same building. It's such a dope building. You would love it.
I'm running the bathroom. Let me say peace out to you. Good to meet you.
Yeah, I'll still be here. So.
Oh yeah, you got to be here.
All right. Get up.
Just gotta keep on.
Hey man, good to see you. Come to the next one.
Yeah, definitely gonna be there. I wanted to do it every 2 weeks, so I got something to do. Nice to meet you, Oliver.
I'm on I'll do it when I can, but I'm on there with my name. I think it's Oliver D, right?
That's right. I'll mention everyone here. So. Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll see you online.
For inviting me.
Of course. Thank you. Yeah. And you. Yeah.
Is anybody else gonna watch? Okay.
I'll keep an eye out.
Yeah, we got you.
All right, you guys have a good one.
See ya.
Saw your post about that.
The which one?
Missoula.
Oh, yeah. No, that was recent. I'm going to go visit my friend Wes the weekend of the 29th. And it all lined up. Like I had these Delta frequent flyer miles, and when I used them up, the flight was like $5, and I was like, I have to do this. I was originally going to drive, but I can't do long road trips anymore. I think it's not like the longest I can do is 2 hours. So sometimes I'm up north on Lake Huron, and I go between Detroit and there, and that's about as long as I can handle. But yeah.
Where did you fly into?
Missoula is an airport. Yeah. It's MST or something. But I think it is a college town. I think, yeah, like Montana State or something.
I used to work on this like permaculture garden when I was in Maine.
Oh, nice.
In a small town called Bar Harbor.
Bar Harbor?
Okay. There was this older like Japanese guy, basically like on hillside, but he just like basically him and his wife, and then there was hired occasionally someone, poor student, to help him with that. Help him out. It was great. It was so fun. He had, he would experiment with all kinds of different like fruits. I think he was trying to grow a tomato in the outdoors.
Yeah.
And then put this big rock wall behind it for 38 feet.
Yeah.
And apparently it was like
I think you need a greenhouse. So I thought about doing that here in Detroit, but with a geothermal greenhouse, like you would, so instead of the rock wall, it would be like, yeah, welcome. You found us.
Oh, we're still here.
Nice to meet you.
What's your name?
Nita.
Nita. I'm Paul.
I'm Will.
Hi, good to meet you. I just wanted to come. Of
course.
I drove back over tonight.
Oh.
It was raining really bad, so I didn't get
I'm glad you
To
did.
make sure I knew where to put it and meet you guys.
Yeah, it's worth knowing about this place just to come back to you for.
She's looking for a new father.
Yeah. And that's Greg, and I didn't catch his daughter's name, but we'll call her Little Greg. I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
I'm Amari.
Greg Jr.
I'm Nita. Nice
Nita, hi. Nice to meet you, Nita.
Well, glad you could make it. It's the sun came out, so here, let me get this crap out of your way. You drove from Ann Arbor? Yeah. Oh my God. Well, you should check out this
Michigan TypeScript meets
Michigan
down there.
TypeScript in Cahoot. They meet at a cafe called Cahoots in downtown Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
It's like a co-working space. It's super cool space, cafe, and I have to drive 40 minutes to get there. And but if you're already there, you should just like.
Yeah, I go to their meetups down there.
They have really good food in Ann Arbor. Oh, it's
Michigan
called,
TypeScript.
Michigan TypeScript.
You can find them on Meetup. They're
It is a typed superset of JavaScript from Microsoft, and it basically is like a preprocessor that helps enforce types, so that all the parameters, all the return types for your function, you say exactly what they are, like integer or your own types that you make up, and it catches a whole class of errors that like you don't have to worry about otherwise. So it's I think like when you build programs that are bigger than like a few thousand lines, or you work with even like one other person, you don't have to like document or think like what is this variable, what am I working with, like the types tell you. So I'm a big fan of it, but it takes a little setup. It takes some getting
Have you
used
know
to.
what types are? Okay.
Oh.
See, look,
Yeah,
no. This is what I mean.
He's a professional
This is
teacher,
why
so.
my passion. This is why I want to like do this so bad, because I've had this experience. I know where like you're like yeah. He's like, I'm gonna Google this later. Yeah. You're like,
I'm
Google this
recording it,
later.
by the way, so my bad explanation will be.
But see, once you get to a certain point, it's like certain concepts become like you don't stop to think like, well, okay, like you're like, here's how you spell cat, but the person doesn't know what the letter C is. It's like so you're automatically like, okay. So like like you've learned though, like when you create a variable, it could be a string, right? Or it could be a number, right? You have a number. Those are types. Those are types of data, right? And there's some basic. There's like, what are the primitive types? There's like 5 or 6, like
There's Boolean, like true or false.
the Boolean, true or false, number.
It's pretty much it in JavaScript. Those three. There's
strings.
lists and objects.
List, like an array. You might have seen arrays. That's a type.
Yeah.
So when you create these things, they can be of a certain type, right? And if you like, say you created a function or an expression that said A plus B equals C, right? You want to do addition. Well, the A and the B, they can't be strings because you can't mathematically add 2 strings like cat and dog. You can't add those together. They're letters. They're not numbers. No, we're not. No. So
Not,
if you
not in my America.
So if you try to, in a program, if A equals dog and B equals cat, and you write A plus B equals C, and you want C to give you some, it should be, the machine's expecting numbers. It's like, but these are number types, they're strings, so it'll throw an error and say, shit, these are the wrong type, right? So what TypeScript does is, it basically checks type, so that whenever you're doing some kind of operation, it makes sure that the types of data you're using are the right types to do that operation you want to do. It's just like a safety check thing. Okay. So like, because when your code is very complicated, but a type can also be a type you made. Like say I have an object with 3 properties, and it's like name, age, height, right? That's my object. I can call that a type. Like this piece of data, when it has name, age, and height, I want to call that person data, and it's in my own custom type.
Yes.
Yeah, and so when I'm passing around this person object with those 3 pieces of data in them, when I use it in something else, I want to make sure that it has a person, age, and height in it. Because if it's missing one of those, maybe my function won't work.
Yeah.
So TypeScript will say, oh, you want to use this person piece of data that you created? Let me check and make sure that what you're giving me is actually the type of person that you created. So it's like a checking. You use it when you're developing. You don't use it in production like when you deploy to the web. But so when you actually compile your data to finally put it on the web, it's going to run a check on everything in your code to make sure all your types are the right types.
Yeah.
That's why they call it TypeScript. I was confused about that for months because I'm thinking like typing somehow. I was totally like, what do they mean TypeScript? So it's like they might have called it type check. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think the alternative is like you if you add things together, JavaScript will try and do its best. Like JavaScript's it wants to be your friend, and it'll be like, oh, you want to add A and B, and one's a number and one's a word, then I'll just call it like 5 hello or something. It'll try and do the right thing, but that's probably not what you meant. And so if you prefer the language to say like, oh, you can't add, you're expecting a string here and it's a number, and so so you can't add them together.
Like some languages like C# and other ones, they're called typed, like strongly typed languages. You can't declare a variable without also saying what it is.
C# is
you can't say
typed.
let x equal y. You have to say const int for maybe integer. You have to tell it every time you create an object or a variable. You have to tell it what type it is. But JavaScript is like the Wild West. You don't have to say the type, and it tries to guess, which people had a lot of complaints about that because it causes errors. Yes. So the TypeScript was invented to make it behave more like the strongly typed languages.
Yeah.
So it's not necessary, but in big production and and people who really believe in TypeScript, they'll like call you a weirdo because you don't use it. Like
No, it's a nice community. There's others that are more cultish than
the
that.
guy I follow who does really great tutorials, he'll always be coding like, so of course he's German. We will make this a TypeScript file because we are not savages. Hey, what up?
How you doing, man? I'm listening. I was supposed to be here, but I seen that the table was filled. So.
Oh, there's room now, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, please do.
Oh man.
So see, that's my passion. I like teaching. I know the struggle, and I'm like, man, I want to tell somebody else that's just starting this shit that it took me like 6 months to figure out. You know what I mean? Like,
And we appreciate that.
Say bye, guys.
It's great seeing you, Greg.
all right, Greg.
And,
What's your daughter's name?
And little Greg.
This is a little Rio.
Rio.
RIYO.
R-I-Y-O. Okay, Rio. All right.
Rio. Sweetie. Okay.
You want to go outside in the park?
Yeah, it's just right there.
Such a nice day.
Get it.
It's fresh and
Wet. You too. See you.
Later.
See you next time.
Yeah, what's up? I'm Lamar.
Wayne.
What is it? Lathan? Landon. Okay. What's up?
Sorry, Amari. Before I go, I keep hearing you talking about things like you don't just need to apply to a job. You need to apply to a job as like a
teacher.
leader.
Yeah.
You need to be like level 2.
I would be good at that.
Teaching people.
Yeah.
I would be good at
I'm
that.
telling you, like,
I would be good at that. All right, thanks for saying that.
you talking through everything.
Let's see if my inner scared child will listen.
They're gonna like, we can't hire this guy because
He's overqualified.
a little. I mean,
Yeah.
that's, I think you're a teacher, right?
Yes.
Yes, I was a teacher a long time.
I think that's a really valuable skill to have because like
Yeah.
part of the job is like explaining complicated things to people who have no idea what you're talking about. And you,
I'll put that on my personal resume of things I'm skilled at. Thank you.
Next month, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I imagine myself being in some kind of environment like that. To do what?
You got a job?
I'm open like 7-Eleven. Just tell me what. No. Well, let's change information because I'm kind of out here. I left teaching like 2 years ago, and I've been just learning this stuff in preparation for a new career pivot.
That's how I got it. I started in nonprofit at university.
Oh.
And I did a boot camp.
Okay. I'm in feast or famine mode just until I get it. So,
What's your nonprofit?
So I was at Tree Cross first, and then American.
Okay.
On the side of things for the last call, we got a lot of requests, and then I came to University of Illinois, and then there were like,
Wow.
all right.
we got so many students that wanted things updated on our website. University, like our student union, the people who are volunteer, hardcore, everything has to be as safe as possible. Using a JavaScript. People want
All right.
things that they're
Yeah.
volunteering immediately. They want to post it right away. They're not going to wait until they email to somebody and somebody checks their file and says, hey, we need something, we need some scripts, we need some things in here so they can just,
Yeah.
at least show what they're doing.
Yeah.
Trying to develop more and more of that. Forget it, I'll do it. Like, oh, okay, it's really complicated. I'll find somebody who can do it.
It's a whole can of worms.
Yes, exactly.
Well, you got people here who want to be in that stuff. They want the worms. They want to be in that can of worms.
Give me the simple
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Landon? What's your deal?
Well, I am self-taught. I've been doing this.
Me too.
I've done it for about 2 years.
Me too. Same page. Will too. Yeah.
Yeah, this is it's a transition from what I'm normally doing, which was I was like an entry level coordinator working at Rocket Morton.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had my girlfriend at the time had a friend that was doing any kind of incident like I was talking about. So I ended up working for it myself and I ended up liking it. So I got a couple projects, but I think my thing is, what happened with me is JavaScript got the best of it. It got the best of it. I've been on it for a long time. I'm like, I got it, but I think the thing is, and I've seen people like use it to do certain projects, but I don't know, like, I guess as far as using certain things to build out what is needed is work out and stuff.
I love to help you, man. I'm telling you, just let me holler at me out. I've been through the struggle recently. It's like I learned something, and I want to tell people like, hey, did you know this is not that hard, or like, you know what I'm saying? Because I understand it's very confusing at first. There's this big chunk of information and concepts that if you don't get them, nothing else makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I didn't want to move into React without actually building to understand JavaScript.
You're right. I agree. I saw React in the beginning when I was figuring out what I was going to do, and I was looking at Python, I was looking at all the different languages, and this was about 2 years ago. And I said I liked I heard React a lot, but then I said, but I don't really understand JavaScript. I spent the whole first year just doing JavaScript.
Yeah.
I restrained myself. I was like, I'm not going to start. I don't need to learn React. I don't need to learn all the other stuff because that's the right decision, I think. Because if you don't understand JavaScript, you might learn how to do stuff in React.
And that's what it was. It's like, I understand React, but I didn't understand
But when it
JavaScript.
breaks,
I didn't want to do it.
you know, or you got to do something custom or something, that's when you'll start feeling it.
I'm like, yeah, let me go ahead and start. I feel I need to understand JavaScript. It's like, I took a whole year trying to understand it. I like briefly seen it.
So what do you like personally are interested in? Like if you were to build something or if you built something, nobody's paying you to do it, so what interests you?
I mean, as far as building interest, I mean, honestly, I would build anything if it came to it. If I could. I don't have as of right now, I have a specific. That's probably what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, I didn't have that for a long time either.
I don't have a specific, so it's like, if it's something interesting, I'll go ahead and build it.
I just wanted to build the world's best tic-tac-toe game. That's what it was. That's what it was at the beginning. Like when I first came to the group, when I was kind of first starting, really beginning phases. That's we worked on that tic-tac-toe game. It wasn't mine, but
I remember
Duke
someone
was doing it, and I had just done it recently.
Yeah.
the Odin project, tic-tac-toe project, and
I think what I like was it's more so like the functionality. I had tried some, I had seen videos, and they were like, it was like some type of, it was basically like a people. You know, like they got like a people or the numbers and stuff. I've seen them do that, but it's like I was trying to figure out how to get it. And I don't know if it's for some reason, but I could do it because I really didn't understand.
right.
So I tend to come back every now and then and try to do what I can, but it's just like I'm getting there, but it's just taking longer than what I expected.
You're on the right path, though. It's always dark in the beginning. It's just, I can't tell you how many times I was just so literally depressed. Like, something I couldn't understand would like depress me for like a week. I'd be dark. Like, I'd be unpleasant.
Would you like
to people? You know, they know what's wrong with me. And all day I'm like, damn, just like get home off work, I'm gonna, oh wow. It's still not understand it. Yeah, very, sure, rocks my whole world. When I like just have a problem like that, and it won't leave me until, you know, some resolution happens.
Would you put on Coldplay and like draw the curtains? Like what is
I would just be in a slightly, not a horrible mood, but it would just, I'd be off, like, because it's like I know there's a solution to this problem. I just don't understand it, you know, and I like love it and hate it at the same time, because when you actually finally get it, you're like, oh, yeah, there's nothing better than that feeling. I love that feeling.
Someone describes it as like breaking through a brick wall and then immediately hitting the brick wall. Like not immediately. Sometimes you go for a while and then you eventually you hit another wall.
No, it's like realizing that there was no wall.
Oh my gosh.
Something like that. Something very meta like that. Like I thought there was a wall, so I was struggling all this time against an imaginary wall.
Yes.
And now I've realized it's not there at all. And now there's a new wall.
You turn around and look back, and there is no wall.
Yeah, right. You're like, what
like,
was that struggle all about? You know? But yeah, you're right. And then there's a new wall. So there's that.
But Amari made a reading app now where like you see words like Dick and Jane reading books. I don't know when we were kids. And they show the words, you read it, and then it sends it off to Google's API, and it comes back and it tells you whether you read it correctly or not. And it was an amazing app. And I don't know, when did you have the idea for that? Did you like at the beginning?
I had that idea when I was in the boot camp in 2016.
Okay.
But the technology, Google's speech-to-text technology, it was a little beyond me. I was learning the .NET C# stack,
okay.
And it was kind of beyond me.
Yeah,
like
so
really,
C#.
It was too much for me at the time. But I was very ambitious in what I was trying to do, and I really wasted a lot of time at the boot camp trying to figure out stuff that was beyond me. And so, but then once I stopped pursuing coding for a few years, I dropped. But I had that idea, you know, to have this speech-to-text as a reading tool for kids, you know. Like, oh, I can read that, and then it'll show me my mistakes and all that stuff. It was very complicated in my head.
Yeah.
But fast forward to now that I started learning again, I found the technology was there. Like, it was a lot more, the API for the speech-to-text was a lot more approachable. I understood more, and I really learned stuff fundamentally. And so it's been in my mind forever. Like,
and you made it happen. I mean, it's like...
It took me like 8 months, I think, from the beginning. Like, I first built it, it was all just JavaScript, HTML. Like, it was all just like all these functions, calling other functions, calling other, it was like the spaghetti, like it was crazy.
Yeah.
Then once I learned React, then I had to like tear the whole thing down and start over from scratch, but with React, it was much easier.
Yeah.
It was way easier. But I couldn't have done React unless I had understood the problems that React was solving. That's the thing, like, when you learn a tool, you have to know why it exists. Like, I didn't understand why React existed.
Sometimes you have to do it the wrong way. I mean, the wrong way.
Yes.
It's yours, though. Like, you own it.
Yes.
And then you make a part of you, and then you start again, and now you know why. You're like,
yes, that's what you're saying, like, not knowing why. It's very important, because React solves a very specific problem. And if you've never experienced the problem, you may not really get what problem it's solving, you know? That's why I said the despair period, it's like necessary. You almost have to go through that to learn the right way, you know? So.
Yeah. And sometimes the tool isn't good. Like, I like React. Like, whenever I see it and I see the problems trying to solve, I'll be like, oh, like, this was worth learning. It's at the right level. But there are some other tools you may learn, and you'll be like, well, I can see what it's trying to solve, but, I don't like the way it does it. It's too complicated. or
Right.
it's the cure is worse than the disease. It's like
Yeah. It's like too much.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm learning all this to do this thing, and if you understand the fundamentals,
Yeah.
you could bypass and say, that looks great, but I can do that by writing this little code here,
Yeah.
and it solves my problem, so.
Well, Nita, I'm sorry you didn't get to meet, and also Landon and Will. There are some other great people who came last time who missed it this time. There was Marie, who's
She
like
was into VR stuff, and
she was making like 3D models in Blender. But I asked her if she was interested in sort of like women who code or like women coders, and there are quite a few, but they show up like one at a time, and it doesn't have to just be women, but women tend to feel it's more intimidating if you show up and it's just like a table full of guys. So I mean, you're like super brave to be here, but you've done nonprofit. You're
already there.
It's my work environment.
You've
Well, I
done
taught for
nonprofit
so long.
stuff,
I was always around women. I was always the guy coming in. Everybody got quiet. Like, we were talking about women stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
What's your background?
I started out in nonprofit in university.
Right, okay, and then you went to
And then I did the boot camp, but it was .NET, and it was some program that was experience IT.
Okay.
It's like several of the downtown companies made an agreement to So from there, of trying to learn more, I was looking for the person who was I can teach you. So as long as you're willing to make mistakes and understand and work with how you understand it, I can teach you. And so we hired you. We try to get some jobs in there.
That's great. You took the one that's me.
Yeah, and it really made a difference. So now I look at where I see the to try to get kind of wide pipeline, especially for women. We do a lot of different things, and then my job is more in the system analysis stuff. But I still would love to learn, especially Java, because we're different.
Okay. Yeah.
I do all I can work on my own projects, not try to feel that I can put my time,
Some people bring their work projects here, and actually that was like a thing I was going to ask people's opinion on, because I love it. We have some really talented programmers, but they have something they want to turn into a business or something that is their current job. Like they got a customer asked them, like Brian, who's working on this wildlife photography.
Yeah.
These cameras, it's super cool. Like these cameras are watching these birds and they collect data, and so he has to put them in a database. And there's also like a fish that's swimming, and there's a camera watching the fish. And so he was learning Next with us and like getting feedback on our database. And he said like, oh, this is amazing. I never have anyone to talk to. I hear this so much. They're like, I've never talked to anyone about my code in my life. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like these jobs are just like really like prisons or something. But and
You'll be working down there
and so
in the basement.
I love talking to him, but I know he can't release it as open source. Like what he's working on, people can't read later. But it is kind of sneaky. We post videos, we record. I'm recording this right now, so probably everyone has to sign NDAs, and we're not really supposed to show this code. But he's doing it. We're all programmers here. We're not going to like steal it, do something with it. So I want to encourage learning, but I also know sometimes people want to talk about something or need to talk about something, and they can't share it. And I don't know. I was wondering how do you guys feel about that?
About what's the question?
Whether it's okay to bring like your work project or something that you plan to turn into a business, is that okay to bring into the group, or should we keep it like only, because tutorials are usually open source, right? Like everything's available. the source code, the video when they walk through it. Should people bring stuff?
Like Brian, who's working on some proprietary that he's not. Like I had asked him like for the GitHub link, and he's like, "Oh, I can't because it's private, it's company." But I think it's up to each individual. I think it's cool to see somebody's code that's actually in the world, working in the wild, production code. Like, how does that really work? How does it really look? Because how you're learning stuff in tutorial a lot of times. As I did more and more tutorials, I learned things like, in production, nobody creates a website without a whole lot of error handling built in.
Yeah.
All these cases, but when you first learn, they don't take time to because it's kind of, you don't need to know all that.
Yeah.
But it's cool to see like production stuff where like, okay, this is involved,
Yeah.
So I think I'd be interested in seeing people's production type code,
Yeah, there's something called like Chatham House rules. People like agree, like I'm not going to use anything I see here against the person, or like only to their benefit, right? Like I'm not going to like steal a business idea. I'm not going to like do it myself, that sort of thing. And yeah, you decided to turn your reading app into a business. I think that'd be a great idea. Like we had the benefit of sort of like seeing it early on.
Yeah, I'd be happy if like somebody used it and found it useful.
Yeah,
that's the point. I don't even think commercially. I'm just like, if somebody would actually, like a kid would actually find it useful, or a teacher would find it useful, that would make my day.
Yeah,
if you put it use in the world.
If you put it online, maybe like throw a Google AdWords campaign on it, like online reading
Google
app.
has a beta app that's kind of like what I'm doing.
Okay,
and it's the only one I've really found like that. And it sucks.
And
it's objectively bad.
Okay, well, and you by yourself, like, were able to do all this. So people underestimate, like they think big companies will do everything, but no, they just have a bunch of money, but they move so slowly and they're so inflexible. And yeah. Okay, So
you're there at Blue Cross, right?
Yeah. By the time they open it's harder to get the idea.
You have like layers. You got to go up, and then come down. Yeah. Right. They're like, yeah, that was a great idea. Here's a totally different one with the same name that Joe over in that department thought was a good idea.
Yeah, so it can be like it's a great company and it's a great learning environment, but it's anytime you have people that stay alive in one role. Sometimes you can benefit from it.
I just like that's something like when like when I take exams and stuff. But it's like really important to see like people working on it because whatever's it's mostly coding here. That was my shot into the workplace. So you don't use anything I don't know what's really systems you're using.
Yeah. And it's usually not intentional. It's just that things change, or there are just like so many technologies, and like you're in a .NET C# only shop, and that's a whole separate ecosystem. Someone who's learning like React and JavaScript like may have never heard of it, and vice versa. Yeah.
And that was like when I looked at the places that I could go within the company, like we have that whole area for mobile app and like more of the web-based systems that our customers use. And I thought it would be a great thing, but in a way that people are looking at it, what tools they're using over there, it was just as confusing.
Yeah.
I think it would be a great idea to see what other people are
Yeah, the way we normally work is through screen share. So Mario was like coding earlier, and even though we're sitting next to each other, sometimes it's easier to like look on a screen. And there were a few people joining us remotely because during COVID for sure, like for the past year and a half, it was like only online. Like the meetup would be online. I was like living in a desert in Arizona, and this was my only contact with humans. I would just like log in and like be on this like Discord. Well, I hear you. It was my lifeline. I was like looking forward to it, and that's why I had it every week. If you look in the past meetups, you can kind of wonder, it's like, why was there a meetup like every other day or something? It was just like, oh, like Paul's really feeling cabin fever. He's like, I gotta know humans are out there. And
yeah, when I first joined the group, Paul was like living in a shipping container.
Yeah.
And was it Texas or something?
It was Arizona, and so it looked like I was being held prisoner by Al Qaeda. Like
when he finally came on camera, I was like, where are you? He was like Guantanamo. Like,
are you okay?
Like,
and I would be like, oh, the sun's going down. Oh, solar power's out. Okay, bye guys. I'll see you next time. Power would go out. But it's still sometimes the screen share. So if you have anyone in your organization's Blue Cross Blue Shield who like wants to join, we'd be happy to have them. And when people screen share online, you can see exactly like everything they type. And usually you're at home, in your pajamas, so it's like super like low key, and you don't have to find parking. And people do it in between the meetups. This is every second Wednesday right now. But if you join the Discord, people meet like a lot more often. Sometimes like every week. Yeah. Hey, good to have you.
I was one of the people that was online when they were doing COVID.
Okay, you found us.
Once you did in person, I was happy, but I couldn't make it.
Yeah.
Finally made it to
I'm glad you came.
I'm glad you came.
It's close enough. I can actually get to one.
Yeah.
People are better together.
Yes.
That's just true. The more the better. I've been taking notes when I had these meetups on like who was there, so I can like start remembering people. So I got Landon. Like anything, you're in the Discord.
Yep.
You're on the server. What's your Discord handle so I know?
Oh, you're DJ Bando. I gotta hook you up with Duke. Duke has been like working on MERN stuff, like Mongo, Node, and you said you're interested in pairing with him at some point.
Yeah, I haven't heard that before.
Oh yeah, Duke's great. He's good to work with.
He's really good. And he's like on the 5th course in Odin project, so he's like probably the most advanced. He started like at the beginning in this group, so he was like gave me faith, like, oh, like this is possible. So now the only reason I recommend this, I'm like, oh well, Duke did it, and I see how much he's learned. So
how do I spell that? It's DJ. Okay. 01. Okay. Are you in the server, Will?
Oh yeah, mine's Side and Flowers.
Wait, say it again.
Side and Flowers.
SIDEHAND Flowers. Like petunias.
yes. I'm also going to mention everyone like in a message, so we have like, and
Anita.
oh, well, we can add you. Yeah. Yeah, if you create an account later, you can share us a screen name or give it to us now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to try to like, I know we were once a month meeting live, but in September, unless I get some great new job, I'm going to be available.
Yes, exactly.
I'm going to try to see if I can do another day in the month.
Yeah.
Have 2 days a month.
Ooh, that'd be
'Cause-
fancy. Yeah.
Because when I work in the start of the fall, my like regular, I'm at a school and I'm out at 2:30.
Yeah.
So like I'd be available at least one day out the month to have another live
That,
meeting.
that would be so awesome. So I am actually leaving in September. I took a job in the Pacific Northwest.
Okay, go back to Seattle.
Yeah, the Olympia, which is like
Okay.
south of Seattle. And so, very
yeah,
sporty
I-
town. Like,
I was in
yeah.
Seattle.
Oh, okay.
Last stop before the Alaska cruise was to Breakdown.
My
Yeah.
my girlfriend at the time, her mom and sister lived in Bellingham. I used to go there all the time. I lived in Seattle for about 5 years.
Yeah, I remember that.
I
Yeah.
just go to Bellingham.
So I'll be online, but if people, I really want to bring people here together so they can keep it going. And meetups, it would be great. You would be great at running meetups, and it's up to your schedule. So what day of the week is good for you?
Yeah, I'd be more than down to
Yeah.
do that.
Great.
Perfect timing. All right. So okay, just wanted.
Yeah, I'll add you as a co-organizer on Meetup, so you'll see that invite the next time you show. Yeah, there's no like obligation attached to it. It's just you're able to create events, and you can just copy and paste. Like I was telling, who was the tall guy? The Richie.
Rich.
I was telling, I need to add his name to this too.
Did you just start calling him Richie, or you said his name was Richie?
I heard Richie the first time.
Okay.
His Discord name is Richie Richie FX.
Oh, that's the Discord. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
I was just wondering. I just thought it was kind of funny.
I know some people like are particular, like they're like Rich, not Richie.
Right.
I'm Paul. I'm not Paulie.
right. Greg was here. That's it, right? Landon, Will, Nita, Rich, Greg, me, you.
Yeah.
One thing I started doing now, I have this file, like whenever I'm go to meetups or events, now immediately,
Yeah.
I have a Google Doc and I write down whatever general stuff that happened, and I write down all the people I met. Because, you know what I mean? It's like super important. I've not really done that, but you'll thank yourself later when you pick up a habit, because like when you can see somebody, and I'll write down weird stuff about people so that I remember when I see them again, and I'll never tell them what I wrote about them, because sometimes it's not, they wouldn't probably think it's very flattering, but it helps me remember. You
Big
know?
hair.
Yeah. You know, I'll be like Santa Claus with, you know, a mohawk, you know, something like that, you know what I mean?
That's right.
So, but anyway, yeah, and I've started doing that, and I'm not gonna tell you what I wrote about you guys. But it helps you remember. You know, you see somebody again, and you're like, hey, you know, or I might write down what they do. You know, if I remember like where they've worked or something.
Yeah.
Because I think it's super helpful to the networking, maybe find employment aspect of being out there. You know. And then I meet a lot of people who are like, oh, I'd love to help you, da, da, da. And I'm like, great. And I don't remember anything about them after I leave, you know. Are you joining the server, Nita?
It's not letting us.
No, my phone is full.
Oh.
Oh, you got an email or something I can just throw in here so I have some way to find you, or some way you can be found, if you don't mind.
Yeah. You if you're
NEITTA G. Okay. NEITTA G. Okay.
Are you any of the people who RSVP? Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah, if you also want to like direct message her on meetup.com. She's NG. That's not the,
Oh, NG. Okay.
yeah, that was the most clear.
NG. Or meetup.
NITTA? NEI.
And that's my LinkedIn. So you can go to linkedin.com/.
I be looking at people like I'm like gonna remember what they tell me. Like, okay. good damn well I'm not gonna like. I don't know what you just said. All right, say that again. What's it, LinkedIn?
So Nita is my LinkedIn.
NEITTA.
That's my LinkedIn. So if you do all the LinkedIn stuff, and then just put Nita at the end of that. That's my LinkedIn.
All right. Oh man, well they're about to kick us out. 7
Are they?
minutes to close. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
We
quick.
started at 6. I mean, it was at 6.
Yeah. No, we're glad that we caught you because I think we were about to get up and leave.
So glad you guys did go. It was nice to meet you.
Yeah.
I'm glad y'all still here.
What project would you recommend for somebody who's trying to get started, like trying to start a project on their own as a practice?
What kind of, like what tutorial or what book or?
What?
Like something to get started with
Like-
practice.
Well, we recommend Odin Project for websites. Yeah, and yes, and there are a bunch of people doing it. Duke is the farthest, but I know Will and Landon are working on it too.
I very much recommend it over like Free Code Camp.
Free
which
Code Camp is good too.
It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are other ones that are good, but it's something about Odin Project. It's very thorough, I think, and it's very level appropriate when you're starting. You know, it doesn't throw things at you without. They have a lot of good links to like explain the concepts they're introducing to you. So it's up to you, but like I would go to those links and I'd watch the videos and I'd read the background of the concept. I think they're organized real well in that way. So I highly recommend Odin Project.
Yeah. So when you're on join the Discord, there are videos of past screen recordings. Even tonight, I'll post a video of the recording I took. And so Duke is making a Facebook clone, and he's gotten like super good. Like anytime if you go to a website and you like it, Odin Project is like, we'll copy this website, and then they show you how to do it step by step. And then it's kind of cool because I don't know, in your mind, at the end, you can say like, oh, this looks pretty much like the Facebook website, and it feels awesome if the thing was in your head and now like you did it from scratch. So.
Hey, I'm on also in the Discord server in this tech event since we're all in there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put this link to Find. Duke hit me on it.
Oh, and he got it from Dispulic, who it's like turns us on to all kinds of cool stuff. So
Yeah, at phind.com.
yeah,
It uses Chat GPT 3.5 or whatever, but it's targeted just toward coding, and so it gives you very targeted, very, 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 very good detailed answers to stuff. I've even stopped. I was paying $20 a month for Chat GPT access and all that, and I was using it for my coding stuff a lot. Once I found that Find, this phind.com, that's all I go to for using AI. Yeah, it'll blow your mind. It's very good. It gives you examples of code and yeah. Lord.
my background is I was a teacher also for a long time. I taught at this like a private boot camp also in Seattle called Code Fellows, and I did like a lot of electronics, and I started like this video game programming competition in school, and I was just like really random stuff, and I moved to Detroit to work on houses because my buddy Adrian was like fixing up a house, and he made it seem so easy, and I'm out here and I'm like, this is so hard. I've been doing it for 2 years now, and so that's where I'm going to sleep tonight. I built myself like a little plastic room inside of a room, and I'm super proud about that, but it's a war zone most of the time. And but this has been like a saving grace. I love talking to people, and it keeps me going. And yeah, that's I mostly do back end stuff. Like I've worked for companies that sell things. Like I've never been good at companies that only do like search or like knowledge-based things. That has to be a company that sells like things that you ship in boxes, like Etsy. I worked for Etsy in New York City, and that was like I really like that, and we got to go to the studios, because I don't know if 80% of Etsy customers are women, so you probably know what Etsy is. And we would go to the studio, so people would make, like knit yarn cozies or sweaters or whatever, and in New York City they would have whole studios where they just rent an apartment and they would use it and they keep all their supplies there. And so every month they would invite employees to go visit a studio, like, let's meet your customer. And so we met this woman who made embroidery kits with like all the different constellations, like Orion and like Cygnus, and all these. And she was so appreciative and grateful. She was like, "Thank you so much. Like, this is my livelihood." And it was probably like the greatest day, at Etsy. There were some great days, but I was like, that made the most impression on me, because I was like, oh, like most of the time I'm sitting behind a computer. Like I don't like. Yeah, I push the buttons and like I get a paycheck. So like, did I really like make a difference in the world? So that was really cool, and that's so I would say that's why I keep doing it, because I think it's cool to help people.
All right.